Every actor will be asked to memorize a script at some point. And while it's tempting to simply shove the script in a drawer, never to be seen again, a true actor will always give their material a quick glance just before filming. Now, there's no need to spend countless hours of time memorizing your lines. Nobody has time for that. Memorizing things is difficult. When you're in a scene, you need to be acting. You don't have time to think about reciting lines from memory, because when you start thinking is when you stop acting. And let's face it, human memory is unreliable. It's been scientifically proven on the internet. I don't remember where exactly, but trust me, top scientists will agree with me on this one. So instead of using all that brain energy towards memorizing, use that energy towards acting. By simply glancing at your script right before filming, your brain will process that information and the words will magically come to you. Here are some exercises you can try. And remember, do these right before you glance at your script. Try watching one of my Manker classic films with the subtitles on. This will help loosen your eye muscles so you can get the ultimate glance. Plus, you'll get a taste of what real acting looks like firsthand. Drink lots of coffee. Really load up on that caffeine. This will help your brain to process words to film like paint to a canvas. If you don't have time to glance at the script yourself, then have someone else do it for you. Then just have them give you the basic gist of your dialogue. The moral of this lesson is, a real actor doesn't rely on someone else's words. Real acting comes from the heart. And if the gig doesn't pay well, then who gives a shit? Just throw the script in the trash. Up next is another installment to our mega video review library, brought to you by my stunt double. Some of you have been asking how I found a double that looks so much like me, and for that I have one word: plastic surgery. Trust me, he looked way different before he started working for me. But we'll get into that some other time. Until then, I hope you enjoy the review. Welcome to the Nick's Video Store Season 3 Halloween Special. We're keeping things nice and spooky at the Videorama this year, as we have special guest Jason Voorhees with us. Say hey, Jason. He's a little shy. Anyway, you may think I'm in costume, but unfortunately, these wounds are real. Shortly after we released our last video, somebody hit me with their car. I didn't really get a good look at the driver since it happened so fast, but it looked like he was wearing a ski mask, and he was definitely driving a rental from Joe's Rentalrama. He was also drinking a glass of wine, which I thought that was a little weird. Especially since Hollywood Nick's the only other person I know who does that. But I asked him, and he doesn't know anyone else who does the same, so I guess the mystery goes unsolved. Anyway, as a stuntman, I'm used to the physical abuse. So I'm back here hard at work, suffering through my tremendous pain to bring you another exciting video review. I see you're interested in watching Intruder. Here's what you need to know about the movie. This film stars Elizabeth Cox as Jennifer, Renee Estevez as Linda, Dan Hicks as Bill, David Burns as Craig, Sam Raimi as Randy, Eugene Glazer as Danny, Billy Marty as Dave, Burr Steers as Bub, Craig Start as Tim, and Ted Raimi as Produce Joe. Walnut Lake Market is a typical grocery store ran by likable small-town folks. However, when a cashier's violent ex-boyfriend stops in, things take a turn for the worse for the night crew, as the employees go from stocking bread to being dead. I think what this movie suffers from the most is slow pacing. Things pick up a little bit once the murders begin, but even then the story still plays out pretty slow. I should have realized from the beginning that this movie would be slow. The film starts off with what felt like the longest 2.5 minutes of opening credits ever, displayed under a full moon, which seems like it would be cool. A spooky full moon to help set the mood, but it just made me wish that the movie would start already. Part of what makes this movie feel so slow is that a lot of characters are established, and a lot of characters are violently murdered, and that tends to take up a lot of screen time. My other complaint would be the lack of distinction between characters. There were a few that looked a lot alike, and it was hard to keep up with who was dead and who was still alive. But I will say these things shouldn't deter you from watching the movie. While it feels long, it's only an hour and a half, and definitely worth the watch. And here's why. Okay, this isn't something the movie does well per se, but it's something I really enjoyed. There's some notable appearances in this movie, and I think that you might enjoy them as well. This film starts with an appearance from Emil Sitka, who you probably recognize from one of his many appearances in Three Stooges shorts. Or maybe you recognize him from his appearance in the movie Crime Wave, which I know you rented and watched immediately after watching our review, despite my lack of mentioning he was in it. Oh, and he even says his classic Stooges Lovebird line in this movie, which any real fan would have to mention when talking about Emil Sitka. There's also appearances from actors Alvy Moore and Tom Lester, both of whom were in numerous episodes of the show Green Acres. And, saving the best for last, Bruce Campbell makes an appearance. But when I say I saved the best for last, I mean the best actor, because the role itself was horrible. Seriously, it was a huge waste of Bruce. He didn't even say anything fun or macho. What a shame. Forget what I said earlier. This wasted opportunity is probably the worst part of the movie. Just pretend like I mentioned it in the previous section of the review. As for the main cast, it's always great to see Ted Raimi in a movie. He plays a goofy produce boy who apparently likes listening to the same cheesy elevator song over and over as he works. That's about the extent of his character's personality. Speaking of the Raimi brothers, one of the things that drew me to this movie was that Sam Raimi has an acting role in the film. You may recognize Sam from his directorial work on films like Darkman, Crime Wave, the Spider-Man trilogy, and of course, the Evil Dead franchise. In fact, a lot of people who worked on this movie were a big part of the Evil Dead franchise. Sam and Ted Raimi, Bruce Campbell, director Scott Spiegel, and Dan Hicks, who, by the way, has one of the best characters in this film. He's one of the grocery store owners, and he's a little out there. I admit, every time I saw his character on screen, all I could think of was him yelling, "Bobby Joe!" in Evil Dead 2. The deaths in this movie are pretty brutal, yet they're still just unrealistic enough to be fun. They really put a lot of thought into the kills. If you're interested in some good old-fashioned grade B horror movie killing, then you've come to the right place. There was also a lot of effort put into the cinematography, as there's some interesting camera angles used throughout the film, some of which reminded me of techniques used in Crime Wave. I think one of the craziest examples of innovative camera work is a scene where the camera shows a view through the dial of a phone. The movie does a first-person style take on the killers, so their identity remains a mystery throughout the film, like a supermarket slasher whodunit. It sort of reminded me of the original Friday the 13th. Wouldn't you agree, Jason? Overall, I really enjoyed the film and was surprised I hadn't discovered it sooner. The original title of the film was The Night Crew, but was changed to Intruder in hopes to market towards fans of slasher movies. I think the original title fits the movie better, to be honest. The movie was actually filmed inside a real grocery store after hours. The entire movie was shot over the course of 2 weeks, using short ends, which are the remaining unused scrap portions of a film roll. So if you're into awesome, low-budget 80s horror movies full of action and suspense and gore and produce, then stop by Hollywood Nick's Videorama and pick up a copy of Intruder today. Isn't that right, Jason? I'm starting to think Jason was a bad guest.